kicking, screaming, clawing, dragging, whining. Donald Trump and his legal team back at doing what they do today, seeking to delay justice. Today's effort at that in the federal criminal case brought by special counsel Jack Smith for illegally hoarding classified documents at his private club at Mar-a-Lago. With the disgraced ex-president watching on in person, though he had no obligation to do so, defense attorneys sought to convince U.S. District Judge Aileen Cannon to dismiss some or all of the charges against Trump. And they did so through various avenues. The first, a motion that would wipe away those first 32 counts on the theory that the main statute used against Trump is, quote, unconstitutionally vague. The second, even more audacious, a motion that would dismiss the indictment entirely on the grounds that the Presidential Records Act completely bars prosecution. They say somehow, through straight faces, that Trump, the snap of a finger, had the power to transform presidential records, state secrets, into personal records, which would exclude them from the Act's requirements. Here is the disgraced ex-president in his very own words last night.
I took them very legally, and I wasn't hiding them. We had boxes on the front of and a lot of those boxes had clothing, and we're moving out, okay? Unfortunately, we're moving out of the White House. I had the right to do it, in my opinion, and in my lawyer's opinion and everything else. They released Hillary Clinton. She hammered her phones. She used all sorts of acid testing and everything else. They call it bleach bit, but it's essentially acid that will destroy everything, within 10 miles.
Acid, clothes, underwear, state secrets, everybody does it. That argument, though, much like the idea that acid destroys everything in 10 miles, might normally be literally laughed out of a normal court, right? But remember, this is Aileen Cannon we're talking about, folks. She's a Trump appointee who has repeatedly shown a willingness and eagerness even to allow the disgraced ex-president's team all sorts of latitude by entertaining their various motions. So here we are. Delay after delay after delay after delay. One afternoon closer to Election Day 2024. One afternoon closer to another potential legal off-ramp for a man accused of serious crimes. And in this instance, ones with very serious national security implications. It's where we start today with some of our favorite experts and friends. Former Acting Solicitor General, MSNBC legal analyst Neil Katyal is back. Plus, former FBI counterintelligence agent Pete Strzok is back with me at the table once again. MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin, who I've had the pleasure of watching you juggle this story and some breaking news for us. We're crashing that. We'll get to that in a second. But start with what is a pattern, another seemingly successful, if audacious and outrageous effort at delay on Trump's part.
Well, and facilitated by Judge Aileen Cannon, right? This is a case, Nicole, when you file a motion to dismiss in a criminal case or even in a civil case, it's not required that you have oral argument. Judges all over the country in federal courts dispose of these things without oral argument all the time. Judge Aileen Cannon, on the other hand, took almost an entire court day to talk about two motions that many of us would tell you is borderline frivolous, if not frivolous. And so the fact that she's even holding this hearing is a facilitation of the delay, stall, and ignore tactics that we've seen from Trump all along in this case and in his other ones.
I mean, look, Evan Corcoran is one of the key witnesses here. That was Trump's own lawyer, Neil. What is Jack Smith doing, not trying to move this out of I mean, this judge has been overruled and overturned by an extremely conservative circuit. Why are we still here?
Because the Justice Department, Nicole, doesn't like to ever file such motions. They don't want to be seen as playing favorites with particular judges. They just take the random assignment, and it's almost unheard of them for them to do something else. This case might actually test it, given Judge Cannon's decisions last year and what she seems to be doing now. I mean, just the idea, and just to pick up on something Lisa said, the idea that we're having a full day hearing on an absurd motion like this, I mean, the only things that Donald Trump's arguments today merit are an eye roll and a swift denial. Certainly not a day of hearing. Like, I mean, I think I'm a pretty good lawyer. There's no way I could win this junk that Trump was saying today.
Well, I mean, so here we are, junk, Aileen Cannon. I don't think she's presided over very many trials, let alone complicated national security trials dealing with classified documents. At some point, Pete Strzok, this isn't about Aileen Cannon. It's about the rest of us. Why are we still here?
Well, I think both Lisa and you and Neil have put a fine point on it. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if this case had been brought in districts where classified information is routinely dealt with, in the District of Columbia or the Eastern District of Virginia, this never would have had a hearing. And the fact is, over the course of my career, I've used 793E, the statute at play here, in many dozens of districts in several circuits, and there's never been a successful challenge to constitutionality. These are, in fact, borderline, if not complete, frivolous arguments. I think, regardless of whatever Judge Cannon's personal motives are, I think absolutely, one, her broad inexperience, but two, her specific inexperience with classified information is leading to these delays. And what I'm reminded of as well is frequently as an FBI agent, you go out and you can do a lot of interviews, but at some point you've got to sit down and write those interviews up. And you're generating, as you're running around talking to people, you're generating this huge administrative backlog. Well, she's doing the same thing in many respects in her courtroom. We've had a lot of motions. We have several more coming up. And there, as we wait for rulings on these motions, because she's decided to have these hearings, that backlog, that's sitting down and putting pen to paper, is growing and growing and growing. And there's absolutely no way in my mind that we see trial in Mar-a-Lago prior to the election.
And what's interesting is there's a different timeline, right? I mean, one of the witnesses did an extraordinary interview with Caitlin Collins this week. Let me show you some of what Brian Butler, I believe he's employee number 5, had to say about the criminal conspiracy to hide classified state secrets and then obstruct the investigation to get those documents back.
I remember him saying, hey, by the way, Walt's coming tomorrow. Oh, cool, that's great. I was like, okay. It wasn't until the following day when we're out walking, he's like, hey, by the way, it's a secret. Don't tell anybody Walt's coming. And, well, why? Well, he needs me to find something out before he gets here. Oh, what's that? He needs me to, how long the camera footage is saved at Mar-a-Lago. And I'm like, well, that's odd. Why do you need the camera footage? Why do you need to know how long it's saved? And his response was, I think they're looking for somebody that was there.
This was extraordinary, Pete Strzok. He also details an amazing scene, and it's the way he tells it. It's almost out of a screenplay where he and Walt are both taking things to the jet to go to Bedminster in New Jersey. Brian is taking luggage with, I'm sure, a lot of hair products in them, but Walt's taking classified state secrets. Why isn't there a New Jersey prosecution?
Well, Nicole, I think that's a good question because we need to find out whether or not there were materials moved to New Jersey. I think it is clear now that investigators and prosecutors likely have several good indicators that material was taken to New Jersey. But remember, to get to that point, you need, there was a search warrant served at Mar-a-Lago. And to get that warrant, there had to be an affidavit demonstrating to a judge that there was probable cause, not only that there was contraband or fruits or elements of a crime at the location, but it was at the location at the time of the application for the search warrant. So the question becomes, one, what sort of information and solid information did prosecutors have that material, classified material, had been moved to Bedminster? And two, did they get that information in a fresh enough sort of time frame to be able to go to a judge and say, look, Your Honor, not only do we believe that this classified material was moved to Bedminster, but it was yesterday or it was last week. And if you start having a span of months or several months, that becomes a harder argument to make for a magistrate. And that's my suspicion of why they didn't pursue a search warrant and couldn't pursue a search warrant at Bedminster.
There's some reporting that to me is almost sort of macabre and funny. Trump is attending the trial today as part of a broader political strategy to make it seem as if he's being imprisoned. I mean, not for long. He's almost off the hook here. It doesn't seem like there's a very good chance there'll be a trial before Election Day in any of these instances. There's a brand new delay in the Bragg case. And you've actually reported this anecdotally of his conduct in the New York courthouse where his company was tried by New York Attorney General Letitia James. It's now made sort of a campaign memo as a political strategy.
Absolutely. And that's where the theater of the absurd is going on. The political and the legal is converging into one. And even though he can't use a federal courthouse, Nicole, the same way that he used that courthouse here downtown where Letitia James tried her case, he is doing everything but holding a press conference on the courthouse steps here. His very presence there is a theatrical, political event. I do want to point out there's one small bit of good news from today, which is that even Aileen Cannon has her limits as to the absurdity of Trump arguments. You know, one of their favorite arguments here is that the Presidential Records Act basically exculpates him because it immunizes him if he decided in his mind that these records were all personal. And even she had a problem with that at one point, turning to Todd Blanche and saying, this is where your argument, Mr. Blanche, seems to falter. Because not only is it absurd on its face, but the analogies that they were drawing to, for example, what we all shorthand as the Clinton Socks case, it's not even remotely comparable. Bill Clinton kept audio tapes in a sock drawer with they were audio tapes of his conversations with Taylor Branch, the historian. And the PRA says that diaries, which Judge Amy Berman Jackson said these were equivalent to, are expressly excluded from the category of what records are presidential. We are far afield from that. Diaries and classified documents talking about nuclear secrets are not the same, and even Judge Cannon knows it.
Well, I mean,
Makes you feel any better? I have already put evac on alert. He's ready to go if it comes to that. General, I can assure you.
Hey, General, let me into the war room to see you, so I had to hack my way onto this frequency.
This better be critical, Wheelie.
Sir, come on, when is it not? Please. Okay, couple of things. I'm running low on the dough. I was thinking about taking a couple of months sick leave, maybe starting today. And, oh yeah. I intercepted a transmission from Megatron.
Then send it through.
Yes, sir, right away, sir. And so I'll assume that we're good on the other stuff.
This is your last warning, insects. Relinquish what remains of the Allspark.
So who's the insect? You? What? Who's the insect?
Protect you. They were defeated on our world, and we will defeat them here.
This was just a diversion. Security, please bring him up. Rabbit, she's already inside. Deeds! Give me an update on that reserve. Boss readiness. What was his name? What was it?
Evac, sir.
Right, evac.
She's right in front.
We are facing a heavy sustained attack. They appear to be after the Allspark craft. General! General! We need to evac immediately. Evac everything. Hold on. National security advisory.